Welcome to a bonus episode of the Special Needs Sibling Podcast. We're doing things a little bit different on this episode because we're highlighting a film directed by a fellow special needs sib. And so here's a brief synopsis of the film. Here we go. After their mother's death, a cognitively disabled woman and her estranged sister must learn to communicate in order to move forward. So this is a little blurb about it. And here to talk about the film and just another fellow sib, we have the director, Liz. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, nice to see you and meet you. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad. Wow, I combined two words with one. I'm glad that we got connected just because I saw you guys are kind of showing the film at different places, so I saw a post for it, which wasn't where I was, but I saw it. I was like, oh, I should meet you, and then here we are. So we got to talk a little bit about the film. So I guess we'll just hop into it a
Yeah.
little bit. What inspired you to make the film? Because it's about you and your actual real life sister, a little bit about your real life situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that it intersected and you found and saw this film. It's had like an amazing festival run. We premiered at Sundance and then went to South by Southwest and Santa Barbara Film Festival and Palm Springs, and now it's out doing a theatrical tour with Sundance Shorts. So we're just like really, really proud that we are connecting with people like you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great to like expand the community and just like find new people. So yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I grew up as the middle child of 11. My parents had four biological kids, and then they adopted seven, and six of us are Korean, and there are several with different disabilities. Um, and Anna is the youngest of all the siblings. And I just grew up in a family where disability was sort of the norm. But
Mm-hmm.
as I started growing up, I just developed this fear and anxiety about the unknown and what would happen when our parents passed away, and what would happen to Anna and how it would affect my life too, and the choices that I would have to make. So yeah, so my background's in modern dance, and I worked in like experimental theater. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and at that time I was just like also stressing about the future, and so I was doing these deep dives into like just figuring out all the steps you have to make, like guardianship, how you get on a
Yeah.
wait list, you
So
know,
much paperwork.
yeah, yeah. And like, what do I even really know about Anna?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like I know her so deeply and and love her so much, but it's like I don't know what medication she takes. I don't
Right.
even like
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. I feel it.
yeah. And her disability is like so complicated, it's not just
Mm-hmm.
like I can't just like, slap some labels on it. And so you really have to know how to just manage all of her health needs. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and my parents weren't really talking about it at that time. Like we were still at a point in our lives and their lives where they were like, "Don't worry about it, Liz. Just live your life." And I was like, "Well, I'm really worried about it." Like I see a disaster ahead, and I want to prepare and make sure that it's
Yeah.
smooth, not just for you guys, but for me too. Um, so yeah, so that's sort of the inspiration. There was a point
Mm.
where finally I was making like esoteric dance work, and I was like,
Yeah.
um, I think the stories that I want to tell are just very, very personal and steeped in reality, and um, it's just sort of about like finding the truth and understanding all the characters, in my
Yeah.
life.
No, that's really cool. I was playing music for a very long time, like in high school and through college and stuff. I decided not to like go the professional musician route because that was difficult. So I just play
Mhm.
for fun. But I definitely feel a lot of like music does this thing for me, like therapeutically, that like other things can't. Just like in the art space, and like even with this podcast, like it's technical but it's artistic, and I get to meet people. There's so many things about that are like I get to connect with people, and it's like its own form of art, but I get like it connects like us, just like how your movie did it. So it's so fun to like have that as a part of something, especially because there's so much stuff to process, like with like both your sister and my sister, which it's just me and her, so I don't relate to the like 11 or 12 people in the family, but I definitely relate to like my sister is younger. It's like what happens to her when my parents passed. I mean, my parents fortunately like they did their all their guardianship stuff like very fairly early, I would call it, in my sister's life, because she was what was it, she was probably 8 when she turned 18 was when they started to do all of the stuff already.
Hmm.
But there's still a lot to be known, right? Like stuff that I don't know. Like I don't know what like I know what her daily routine is, but I don't like know like the specific nuances of like, oh, she needs to take these things and eat these things and like not, avoid other things.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
what she likes and dislikes and yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things that we talked about before our recording day was kind of like um the film was helping you kind of process kind of the complexity in that. Um,
Hmm.
So, which we kind of talked a little bit about that, but I was wondering if you could kind of expand on that, kind of like as you were making the film, whether that was like in real time production or post production, kind of what that was like in your processing, kind of like your real time stuff going on and like in the film.
Yeah, I wonder how it overlapped. Like I was working on the script for a while, and it actually started sort of more focused on my character, like the non-disabled sibling,
Hmm.
and um, and because I was unpacking that experience for myself, and I realized I was like, why is this not that interesting to me, and why is it is like it doesn't it's like feels like a bit of a trope. Um,
Oh,
and
interesting.
yeah, like we've seen these movies before. This plot line, the mother dying, someone and the sibling, taking over and figuring it out has been done in film many times before. And it's, a beautiful, important story. But I think we're at the point where I was really curious about what Anna's experience uh, would be in this situation and what her point of view is and how
Hmm.
to give people empathy to her losing all of her security in life
Yeah.
and not emphasize the burden, quotes, the burden that the sibling has. So I shifted the film to be from her perspective. So it really centers her and her experience and her nuance. And I think the hard thing was I didn't want to make her like magical. I didn't want her to force her
Hmm.
to articulate in a way that she doesn't, and so all the dialogue was written in her voice, in words and phrases in the way that I know she speaks. And
Okay.
um yeah, and Anna, she speaks in incomplete sentences. There are ideas that are sort of scattered and
Hmm.
um I think but I understand her. I understand her because she's my
Yes.
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she can say
Yeah.
anything. I get what she wants and what she needs,
Yeah.
and I wanted the audience to do that too. So I didn't, write something. I just let her be herself within it, and I think that's what's interesting about it. Yeah, and it really just gave me insight into her and a lot more empathy into her. Um, and in the film too, I think I try to make everyone around her is sort of, you know, the people who are missing the point, not Anna.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my sister, she doesn't do complete sentences. She does like one words that then communicate a whole sentence with the one word, which I think is half laziness, half she can't. Like just because how we grew up and stuff, it's kind of been a mixed bag. But what she's decided to do in the last like few very like in the last couple of years is she says a word that then indicates whatever she needs, and then she's kind of started to do this thing where if we're in a group setting and she wants to participate as someone who wants to talk, she will just make it up. She'll kind of just say like new words that we all don't know what she's talking about, but that's like her way of kind of um participating. And it's interesting because I just had a phone call with her yesterday, and I was kind of like I was talking with her caretaker because she has 24/7 care, just because she can't do everything by herself. And so we were talking about some things, and then I also brought some stuff up to my sister, knowing that she can't like respond in a
Mhm.
thorough kind of affair, but I know that she knows what I'm talking about. And it was so funny because I had made this comment, and I could like see the laughter on her face, and she had all these like smiles, and she was kind of like, and it's so fun because it's like I know that she's participating in that way, but just in the form that only like she can do. But
Mhm.
it's like how you get involved in that process because that's all over video too because we live far apart, so I can't actually see her in person all the time. So yeah, it's interesting kind of like taking her perspective and just like showing other people what that is because like obviously I'm her sister, so I know what it is, but other people don't that like don't know her. So that's an
Yeah.
interesting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I let the film linger on a lot of close-ups of Anna having reactions, and because I wanted the audience to, like, go deep into her, like, interiority and, like, really,
Mm-hmm.
um, understand her in the same way that you're saying, through her reactions, and understand that
Yeah.
even though, she can't clearly articulate herself in the way that you want, she she's smart and she knows what's going on, and she's empathetic, and she's witty, and she's stubborn, and she's all of these emotions that I think that we don't give um people with disabilities in film representation for, being complicated human beings. um
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's interesting because a lot of well, this is just my like what I see. It's just that they'll cast a lot of people and they kind of like they act like people of those disabilities, and they won't always cast people with those actual disabilities all the time. And I think that's just the circle of things that I see and stuff. But you actually casted Anna like as herself in the movie. So like, what was that like working with her as like you're directing it, but she's your sister, and like you're like encapsulating the
Yeah.
whole thing? What was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
like? Yeah.
I mean, on that note, I feel like we're pushing forward to cast people with authentically with disabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we cast a
Yes.
lot of people with like clear disabilities that the audience can understand, like in like Down syndrome or
Mm-hmm.
autism or something. And what I love about Anna is that it's not clear. You can't put her in a
Mm-hmm.
box at all. So the audience really has to watch and listen and figure out for themselves um, how she communicates. And I think also um, the what's hard in film is that the way that you shoot is often you take a script, you break up the scenes, you shoot it
Mm-hmm.
out of order, you take so long to set up a shot and light it and everything, and then you have like the smallest amount of time to actually act and get the shot right.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone like Anna is not going to thrive in that situation. So we really had to rethink the way we were structuring the shoot. And so what we did is we planned out all the lighting and what the shot list was going to be and the production design. And, it all shifted in the moment too, but we had a clear plan so that we could just jump into a shot as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then for just like a small snippet of a scene, we would shoot for like 15 minutes, just nonstop. We and So what we did is we cast her sister, is an incredible actress who's done a ton of
Mm-hmm.
theater and film, and she sort of took the script and the dialogue, and she did it on like on a loop, and it was like a structured improv.
Oh.
So
Okay.
because Anna has like little to no short-term memory, I would yell out the line she should say. She would
Right.
repeat it, and it wouldn't sound that good because she was just trying to like repeat a line,
Yeah.
which
That she heard you say in a certain tone of voice or something like that, right?
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And but then I would slowly pull back, and the scene would keep on sort of repeating at whatever tempo um that made sense.
Okay.
And Anna would sort of keep filling in the blanks and figure out what the scene was. And eventually she would figure it out, and she would, you know, um, say it in her own words. And that's why I think she has such an incredible, authentic performance in it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
one scene that we did where she has this tiny little monologue. And what happened is she just developed that on her own. Is we were doing that scene on repeat and just
Yeah.
sort of opening it up from like my my like experimental theater background. I was like, oh, let's just play with
Okay.
these ideas and see what
Yeah.
happens. And this is the space you can play within. And Anna would just be reacting to it. And then she said this beautiful monologue, which just like showed that she like understood the situation, but it wasn't quite clear. And it was
Yeah.
like, yeah. So it was a big experiment on how to give her the room to perform. And I also really like to add that like um even though like Anna knows the difference between pretend and real, she's
Okay, right.
so present and immersed
Yes.
in this film and reacting emotionally to the people around her because she's a beautiful, beautiful, empathetic soul.
Yeah.
But then when we called cut, it would be over and she'd be like, all right, what's next? And she would,
Yeah,
yeah,
they just
she'd
snapped
like
out of it. Yeah.
yeah, she'd, like, check in on the other
Yeah.
actor if it was a fight scene, she'd be like, "I'm not mad at you," or she'd, like,
Yeah.
crack a joke with someone, like,
Right.
she had a line, it's not we have to give her that credit even though she may not be able to articulate it to us, but she she was, acting in the best
Yeah.
way an actor does, which is being present, so,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
impressive. Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't act. I like that. That's why, like, I like behind the scenes stuff, which is like why we could probably talk forever. And I like, and I do podcasts where like you don't see me, you just hear my voice and things like
Yeah.
that. But that's cool though. That it's like, yeah, that's such like a unique experience where you get to like watch her thrive in like multiple environments because obviously you're setting something up, but like it is real, but it's not real. Like yeah, it's so
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
like, I mean, Anna is a star of this. She's in was in, I think, almost every single scene. So
Okay.
she was on set all the time. And I feel like she was stimulated and engaged and challenged. And by the end of it, she was just like so sharp and it was so good for her to be a part of it as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was an amazing experience. And like, it was an indie film set, so there was like a crew
Okay.
of like 12 people or something. But
Yeah.
what's, funny is that that's like the size of our childhood family.
I was
So
just gonna say that when you said 12, I was like, wait, that's like perfect for her because she's like very used to like that number of people and like and
yeah,
obviously like you're there. Yeah, like that's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So
Yeah,
like
it's like a
growing up in that
bonus.
chaos, like
Yeah.
actually a film set just feels like normal.
Yeah.
Everybody sort of like, all the everyone talking to each other and all
Yep.
the scurrying around. Like she's always just like sort of witnessing that and a part of that.
Yeah.
So I think it was fun for her. Yeah, and we're developing it into a feature, and my goal is to
Oh,
still have her lead it.
exciting.
Yeah, and she's
Yeah.
still written into like every single scene because she's the most interesting actor
Yeah.
that I know, you
Yeah,
know?
that you'll probably know forever. I don't think she'll probably
Yeah.
always be number one in that territory, which makes like complete sense. That's so exciting. So I guess where can people like if they want to watch the film or a trailer or connect with you or like however I don't know how to phrase that properly, but yeah, how can people kind of like connect and things like
Yeah,
that?
you can follow the film at takemehomefilm.com. And yeah, we're in like 15 festivals this fall, and we're doing the Sundance Shorts tour theatrically across the country. And we're actually going like we're in Europe and the Middle East. And we'll have it released online probably early December
Okay.
because we're pushing it out right before the voting starts for the Oscar shortlist. So we're crossing our fingers that
Yeah.
the film can just keep moving forward. So yeah, and then my Instagram is Lizzie Sarge. Um, so and you can find the film Instagram there too.
Cool. And then I'll put links to that too, like in the mini version of the show notes for this. But yeah. Awesome, cool. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for coming on and sharing it. Then hopefully at some point when you have a little bit more time you can come on like for like a regular longer episode. But I really appreciate you coming to take the time out to talk about the film.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Thank you.